Hello there, peeps. This is the Hillbilly Halfwit. How's it going there? Well, this is going to be a short video. I've had a reply off the Caerphilly by-election councillors, and fair play to them. I always say things when people are being tidy with me. This has been sent back the next day, so fair play to them. Of course, there's things that they can't send me because under the UK laws of elections, they're not allowed to tell me how many voted for X or Y. So they can't say how many people voted for the parties. And what else they can't say. What happens is all these postal ballots are mixed in amongst the other ballots. So we don't really know who they voted for. So there's no way of finding that out. I think I did see something happen years ago in a panorama program where you're allowed to actually go to the actual place here, the electoral area, and see the ballots themselves. And then you can get the names off the ballots and go to the houses they're from to check if they're correct. So you could say you found David Blunkett had got a postal vote and he said he'd voted for reform. Say he said he'd done that, and then you got his address and you went there and you said, knocked on the door, said, "Hello, Mr. David Blunkett. You voted for reform on your postal vote." And you'd ask him and he'd go, "No, I didn't. I voted for Labour." So that's the only way you can find out if these postal votes are right, which is pretty bizarre. We should know how many people from the parties are getting the most from these postal votes, I think. But I will say something to this chap here. He's everything I asked for, he's given. So we'll read it out now. So there's a good thing about transparency. So this was a reply for the subject of request for postal voting data for Caerphilly Senedd by-election 2025. And what I was quite surprised with, as you'll see now, is how many. So, dear Mr. Edwards, the registration of electors and elections are governed by the Representation of the People Act 1983 as amended. Local councils must appoint an electoral registration officer and returning officer, and the appointments are separate to any other appointments by the council, and their duties are personal to these posts. The electoral registration officer, returning officer does not carry out the duties on behalf of the local authority, but in their own personal capacity. As the Freedom of Information Act does not list any person appointed under the Representation of the People Act 1983, it follows that the electoral registration officer, returning officer, or any other person appointed under the Act are not subject to the provisions of the Freedom of Information Act. The legislation you quote from RPR, I believe, relates to the provision of the absent voter lists to candidates and agents, and the supply of electoral registers. Some election documents are open to inspection at my office, others are not. However, the returning officer is happy to provide information where possible. 9,498 postal ballot packs were sent out, and of them, 7,271 postal ballot papers were verified and entered into the count, so 76.55% of the original 9,498. The total electorate for the election was 66,895, and 33,736 ballot papers in total were verified. Postal papers and those from the polling stations, which gave an overall total turnout for the election of 50.43%. I hope this information is of some help. From David Beecham. Well, fair play to the guy. I am very pleased to reply this, because that's all we are asking for, is some proper information. Now, if you want to get, like, there's 7,271 votes there come from people that we don't know who they are. You can go to this place and they can give you the names of some random ones, I assume. Not sure how it works, but I'm sure the Reform councillors could go there and ask for them to check some out, because that does seem a huge amount of people, to be fair. So out of 33,736 people who voted, 7,271 were postal votes, and 9,498 postal ballot packs were sent out. So that's nearly 10,000 postal votes were sent out. That's a huge amount. That is an absolute gigantic amount when you consider only 33, nearly 34,000 people voted. So they can definitely turn elections. As I said, I'm very, very impressed with the way David Beecham has sent this back. I cannot say they've done anything wrong. They've been really quick, just a day, and I'm happy with this, what they've sent me. So, as you can see, I'm not biased in any way whatsoever. I'm just a little bit worried that there's a huge amount of postal votes when you think that the election was won by not a huge amount. Well, I'm not sure what it was. Was it 2.5 or 3,500 votes? I'm not quite sure. But when you look at it like this, there's a lot of room for messing about with this postal votes if there's nearly 10,000 in an election of 34,000, isn't it? Now you think if this was a normal election, there's usually about maybe a 20 to 25% turnout, not a 50% turnout. So 10,000 in that would be half of all the votes. So as you can see, I don't think postal votes are safe, and I think it's in a big way, fraud can happen in a big way, but it's not unprovable in the current system we have. And the people here doing this obviously have done all they can, and I commend them for it. So there we are. So David Beecham, thank you very much. You've been very open. You couldn't show me any more because you're not allowed to show me anymore. So thank you very much. And for the people wondering if these things are worth it, if these videos I do are worth it, they are. Now you can see there now, I did a video yesterday, and that video requested for something, and the day after I had it. Now lots of people don't even ask these days. They're afraid to ask for things that are lawfully there for us to look at. And this is what makes elections work. If people are more open about this to start with, so I just suggest to the councillor in Caerphilly, just put this online. If you put this all online, there'd be no problem at all, and it wouldn't make any difference whatsoever. So there we are. That's a short video for me today. It shows that you do get, if you're persistent, you can get things looked at. So there we are. Please comment, rate, and subscribe. All the best, guys.